begin.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Ohayo gozaimasu. That means good morning. My name is Rachel Ralston. And before I introduce my topic today, I would like to start by drawing 5 characters on the board. So, I'm sure this does not mean much to you all, but does anyone have a guess as to which of the 5 letters these characters represent? No?
Vowels?
Yes, perfect. So we've got A, I, U, E, and O. I gave this demonstration to illustrate to you guys that Japanese is not all that different from English in the sense that it uses an alphabet. And furthermore, my aim today is to inform you all about the Japanese writing system's 3 systems, hiragana, katakana, and kanji, as well as show you how to put them all together. According to my audience analysis, the majority of you have experienced Japanese media, and all of you have experienced Japanese culture in some way or another, mostly through food. So it's a shame then that none of you are familiar with the language, and I hope to remedy that today, because I've been studying Japanese for about 6 or 7 months now, and fortunately I have plenty of vetted, verified sources to use, so you all know I'm not lying to your faces. So let's begin. That brings us to a semi-brief introduction. Hiragana developed from Chinese characters. Eventually, this way of writing became associated with court woman and was called onade, or woman's writing. The present orthography of hiragana was codified by the Japanese government in 1946. There are also 2 more systems that are more like learning tools, romaji and furigana. I will be going into detail on those now. So, first of all, this is a quote directly from Kiyomi Ogawa, author of Easy and Fun Hiragana for Beginners. The Japanese language consists of 3 writing systems: hiragana, katakana, and then kanji. Difficult kanji characters often have their pronunciations written directly above them to assist readers, a technique known as furigana. So the first cheat code is romaji, or what you would know as your ABCs. Hiroshi Ishino, author of The Roman Alphabet Belongs to Everybody, affirms that in present-day Japan, a Japanese person totally ignorant of the Roman alphabet is at a serious disadvantage. So clearly, romaji, or our ABCs, are still really important in conjunction with communicating in Japanese. The second, furigana, isn't its own alphabet so much as it is, again, a helpful resource, even for those fluent in Japanese. It is the hiragana that often appears above or beside kanji, since kanji often have more than one pronunciation or meaning depending on the context. I gave an example of that here. This means tea, pronounced ocha, o, and then these here tell you that this is pronounced cha. In Japanese newspapers, it is actually legally required that furigana is attached to kanji, not included in the official list of most used kanji. So our introduction has ceased, which brings us to the first system, hiragana, which is something like the essentials. The distinct round look of hiragana helps us distinguish it from katakana and kanji. It is considered more visually appealing and friendly, so like romaji, it is often used in advertisements or advertising. Each consonant has 5 variations for each of the 5 vowel sounds. So, according to Jared Koichi Crows of Tofugu and Wanikani projects, this column sets the pronunciation of every other column coming after it, because every other column is essentially just the A, E, I, O, U column with consonants attached to them. So they do follow this set pattern, generally speaking. Hiragana incorporates dakten and handakten, which are marks placed after certain hiragana that change the way the consonant is pronounced. I have some examples here. Without these symbols, pretend those are missing, this would be pronounced ha, hi, hu, and he. But because of the presence of the handakten, it would be pronounced pa, pi, pu, and pe. Similarly, these characters without the dakten, ha, ki, su, te, become ba, gi, zu, de. So that's how we incorporate other letters that we might be familiar with. Now we can talk about the second system, katakana, which functions in a way that is almost exactly similar to hiragana. So you may be wondering, that seems incredibly redundant. In actuality, it is essential to communicating and writing Japanese. Before I explain exactly why, can anyone tell me what breed of dog this is?
Dalmatian.
Perfect, or as you would say in Japanese, Dalmatian. This one's a little harder. Does anyone know the other dog?
Dachshund?
Doberman.
Doberman.
Or Doberman. So that was meant to exemplify why katakana is necessary, because according to Sachiko Kinoshita, associate professor at Macquarie University and affiliate of the ARC Center of Excellence in Cognition, one feature of the Japanese kana system is that hiragana and katakana are used to write different types of words. Katakana is used almost exclusively to write loan words, usually nouns of Western origin. So, loan words are words adopted from one language into another without any significant changes. Without katakana, Japanese people couldn't use words like party or game, which is to say tati or gemu. And if that isn't important enough, foreigners in Japan must use katakana on a daily basis, because if you have an American or otherwise non-Japanese sounding name, you will be expected to write it using katakana. In this case, my name, Rachel, would be pronounced Raicharu, and if I told someone my name was Rachel, they would look at me like I had 3 heads. Or maybe just like I'm a foreigner. To give a better understanding of why we need 2 of them, I have provided these letters here, A, E, U, E, O, mean the same thing here in katakana. Kind of like we use capital and lowercase letters. This comparison isn't completely foolproof, but just like we use lower and capital letters to communicate and enunciate different things at different times, katakana and hiragana are used in a similar way. Which is also to say, if you were to combine capital and lowercase letters, it would look strange, just like you were not supposed to do so with these characters here. This brings us to my third point, my favorite point, and also considered the hard part, kanji. So, kanji is comprised of building blocks called radicals. Using radicals, we can break complex kanji down and use these pieces to tell a story, to remember these more complicated shapes. A quote from Bernard St. Jacques of his writing Structural Analysis of Modern Japanese: when thinking of radicals and their usefulness, you need to think of them as though they were the individual letters of the English alphabet. So, what this means, I've provided some beautiful picture references. This kanji here, it means flower, pronounced hana. But if you were to look at this and you don't have any background, it's hard to recall this exact letter compared to others that look similar, especially because these building blocks called radicals are used in many different combinations. So let's say rather than learning this shape as meaning flower, we tried to learn the radicals first. We could recognize this shape as flowers. This one, we'll call it the leader radical. It doesn't have to make sense yet. And this looks like a spoon, right? So if you were studying Japanese pretty extensively, you could make a story out of this, or use a mnemonic device. Imagine the leader, he is working so tirelessly with only a spoon to plant all these flowers, and he has to because he is the leader, it is on his shoulders. That might seem a little pointless, but if you were learning Japanese, or maybe even if you're not, you'll probably never forget the meaning of this kanji ever again. It is extremely helpful to tell stories in this way because that's how human brains are wired to think. Here's another quote about kanji from Jared Koichi Prose, again, of Tofugu and Wanitani projects. It wasn't until the Qing dynasty that China was united under one kingdom and the writing system was united as well. Everyone finally did kanji the same way, and finally kanji got useful. Up until this point, or at least historically, kanji was not being used. So why do we have kanji at all then? Why can't we just use the 2 systems I've already introduced? Well, let's put everything together and demonstrate why it's so useful. We have 2 sentences that mean the same thing and are pronounced the same way. If I were to read this, Koichi-san no ani no kuruma. Everything kind of blends together. It's hard to decipher which words are which, and there are no spaces in the Japanese language. This sentence, again, the same thing. Koichi-san, let's say my friend Koichi. Koichi-san no ani, Koichi's brother. Koichi-san no ani no kuruma, Koichi's brother's car. If you were reading a large textbook page made up of this, you would have a much harder time compared to using kanji. Ignore that slide. All right, so to conclude my presentation, my aim was to inform you all about the three systems incorporated into the Japanese language: hiragana, katakana, and kanji, as well as show you how to put them all together. Hopefully I've succeeded at that goal today. And before I dismiss you all, I would like to teach you the most important word you will ever know if you were, say, in Japan, the word toilet, because if you were to say toilet, again, you would not be understood. So you need to say toire, toire. Arigatou gozaimasu. Thank you very much.